It took 8 years for Maria Santos to build a reputation as the most reliable housekeeper at the Grand Plaza Hotel. It took 8 minutes of her speaking fluent Spanish to help stranded guests for the assistant manager to decide she didn't belong there. It took 8 hours for the CEO to see the security footage. And it took 8 seconds for him to make a decision that would change everything. Maria Santos had never asked for recognition, never demanded special treatment, never expected anything more than the steady paycheck that helped her support her teenage daughter's college dreams. At 42 years old, she moved through the luxury halls of the Grand Plaza Hotel like a shadow, efficient, invisible, and utterly dedicated to her work. The Grand Plaza wasn't just any hotel. Sitting in the heart of downtown Miami, it catered to international business travelers, diplomats, and celebrities who expected perfection in every detail. The marble floors gleamed like mirrors, crystal chandeliers cast rainbow patterns across cream-colored walls, and every surface reflected the kind of wealth that Maria could only dream of touching. But Maria Santos was more than just a housekeeper with dreams. She was a woman who spoke 4 languages fluently: English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. A skill she'd developed growing up in a neighborhood where survival meant being able to communicate with everyone. She'd studied business administration at Miami-Dade College before financial pressures forced her to drop out and take the hotel job to support her family. For 8 years, Maria had watched guests struggle with language barriers, seen businessmen frustrated by miscommunications, witnessed tourists lost and confused in the lobby. She'd always helped when she could, translating quietly, offering directions, solving problems with a smile and a few words in whatever language was needed. The guests appreciated it. Management never noticed, and Maria never thought to make it official. Derek Walsh had recently been promoted to assistant manager after 6 months at the Grand Plaza, and he approached his new role with the kind of aggressive ambition that often masked deep insecurity. At 28, Derek saw every interaction as an opportunity to prove his authority, every situation as a test of his leadership skill. Derek had grown up in suburbs where diversity was a talking point rather than a daily reality, where his understanding of professional success came from business school theories rather than real-world experience. He'd been hired because his resume looked impressive on paper, but 3 weeks into his new position, he was already struggling with the hotel's international clientele and their complex needs. That Tuesday morning started like any other for Marie. She arrived at 6 a.m., changed into her crisp uniform, and began her rounds on the 15th floor. The presidential suite needed fresh linens, the corner rooms required deep cleaning after a weekend conference, and 2 rooms needed to be prepared for VIP arrivals that afternoon. Maria worked methodically, taking pride in every detail. She folded towels into perfect sculptures, arranged amenities with artistic precision, and made sure every surface sparkled. This wasn't just cleaning, it was craftsmanship, and Maria approached it with the same dedication she'd once brought to her business studies. Around 10:30 a.m., Maria was restocking her cart near the elevators when she heard raised voices from the lobby area 15 floors below. The sound carried through the hotel's atrium, and something about the tone made her pause. Frustration, confusion, and growing anger mixed in voices speaking rapid Spanish. Maria finished loading her cart and was about to continue her rounds when 2 men in expensive business suits stepped off the elevator, both talking loudly in Spanish, their faces flushed with stress and irritation. ¿Dónde está la sala de conferencias ejecutiva? One of them was saying. Llevamos una hora buscándola y nadie aquí habla español. The other man gestured angrily at his watch. La reunión empezó hace 20 minutos. Vamos a perder este contrato por culpa de este hotel. Maria understood immediately. These men were looking for the executive conference room, had been searching for an hour, and were about to miss a crucial business meeting because no one at the front desk spoke Spanish. Their frustration was building toward the kind of angry complaint that could damage the hotel's reputation. For a moment, Maria hesitated. She knew the hotel's unspoken rule about housekeeping staff staying invisible, not engaging with guests unless specifically asked. But she also knew that these men needed help, and she was probably the only person on this floor who could provide. Disculpen, señoras, Maria said quietly, approaching with the respectful professionalism she'd learned from years of hospitality work. Buscan la sala de conferencias ejecutiva? Both men turned to her with visible relief. Sí. ¿Habla español? Por supuesto. La sala de conferencias ejecutiva está en el piso 12, al final del pasillo este. Pueden usar el ascensor de la derecha. Es más rápido. La reunión es en la sala Rivera, ¿verdad? Exactamente. The first man's face lit up with gratitude. ¿Cómo llegamos allí más rápido? Maria quickly explained the most direct route, helped them navigate the hotel's complex layout, and even called ahead to the conference center to let them know the Spanish-speaking clients were on their way. The entire interaction took less than 8 minutes, but it solved a problem that had been building for over an hour. Muchísimas gracias, señora. Usted nos salvó el negocio, the second man said, pressing a generous tip into Maria's hand before they hurried toward the elevator. Maria smiled, feeling the quiet satisfaction that came from helping someone in need. She tucked the tip into her uniform pocket and returned to her cart, ready to continue her work. But she didn't notice Derek Walsh standing near the service elevator, having witnessed the entire interaction with growing displeasure. Derek had been walking through the hotel, conducting what he called quality inspections, unannounced observations designed to catch employees in violations of protocol. When he saw Maria speaking Spanish with the guests, he didn't see problem-solving or customer service. He saw a housekeeper overstepping her boundaries, acting outside her job description, and potentially creating liability issues for the hotel. Derek approached Maria as she was organizing cleaning supplies on her cart. "Excuse me, Maria looked up, surprised to be addressed by the assistant manager. "Yes, Mr. Walsh? I saw you talking to those guests. What was that about?" Maria sensed tension, but wasn't sure why. "They were lost, sir, looking for the executive conference room. I helped them find it." Derek's expression hardened. "That's not your job, Maria. Housekeeping staff are supposed to clean rooms, not interact with guests. We have front desk personnel trained for guest services." "I understand, sir, but they had been looking for an hour, and the meeting had already started. They were very frustrated, and I could help because I speak Spanish." "That's exactly the problem," Derek said, his voice rising slightly. "You're not authorized to provide guest services. You don't have the training or the authority to make decisions about hotel operation. What if you'd given them wrong information? What if there had been a security issue?" Maria felt her stomach tighten. "Sir, I was just trying to help. They were about to miss an important business meeting. Your job is to clean rooms, not to play translate. This is a serious violation of hotel policy." Derek was building his case as he spoke, convincing himself that he was protecting the hotel from liability and maintaining professional standards. In his mind, Maria's helpfulness looked like insubordination. Her language skills looked like unauthorized responsibilities, and her success in solving the problem looked like evidence that she didn't understand her place in the hotel hierarchy. "I need you to come with me to the office," Derek continued. "This kind of behavior can't be overlooked." Maria followed Derek to the management office, her mind racing. In 8 years of employment, she'd never been written up, never received a complaint, never been anything but exemplary in her performance reviews. But she could see from Derek's expression that this conversation wasn't going to end with a warning. Derek seated himself behind the assistant manager's desk and pulled out a disciplinary action form. "Maria, this is a serious breach of protocol. Housekeeping staff are not authorized to provide guest services, translations, or direction. You exceeded your job responsibilities without authorization." "Mr. Walsh, I was trying to help the hotel. Those guests were frustrated and about to complain. I solved their problem quickly and professionally." "That's not the point," Derek said, his voice growing firmer. "The point is that you acted outside your authority. You made decisions that weren't yours to make. You created potential liability for the hotel by providing services you're not trained or authorized to provide." Derek was working himself into the kind of self-righteous certainty that made bad decisions feel like leadership. He saw Maria's explanation as defensiveness rather than clarification, her calm professionalism as disrespect for his authority. "I'm going to have to terminate your employment, effective immediately." The words hit Maria like a physical blow, Terminate. Mr. Walsh, please, I was just helping. The decision is final. You'll need to clear out your locker and turn in your uniform. HR will process your final paycheck. Maria stared at Derek in disbelief. 8 years of perfect service, 8 years of going above and beyond, 8 years of dedication to the hotel ended because she'd helped 2 lost businessmen find a conference room. Mr. Walsh, please reconsider. I have a daughter in college. This job? I'm sorry, Maria, but company policy is clear. Unauthorized interaction with guests is grounds for immediate termination. There was no company policy that said what Derek claimed, but he was confident that his authority as assistant manager gave him the power to create policy interpretations as needed. He was also confident that Maria, as a housekeeper, wouldn't have the resources or knowledge to challenge his decision. Maria Santos walked out of the Grand Plaza Hotel that afternoon carrying a small box with 8 years' worth of personal items from her locker. She didn't cry until she reached her car. Then she sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, trying to figure out how to tell her daughter that college tuition had just become impossible, how to explain to her landlord that rent might be late, how to start over at 42 years old. But Maria Santos had forgotten something important about justice. Sometimes it has a longer timeline than we expect, and sometimes it comes from directions we never see coming. What Maria didn't know was that the entire interaction with the Spanish-speaking businessman had been captured by the hotel's security cameras. The Grand Plaza's surveillance system recorded everything: lobby interactions, hallway conversations, and employee conduct as part of their comprehensive security and quality assurance program. What Derek Walsh didn't know was that CEO Jonathan Rivera made it a practice to review random security footage every week, part of his hands-on approach to understanding how his hotel really operated at ground level. And what neither of them knew was that Jonathan Rivera had built his career on exactly the kind of multilingual customer service that Derek had just decided to punish. That evening, Jonathan Rivera was in his corner office on the 23rd floor, reviewing weekly reports and security footage as part of his regular management routine. Rivera had started his career 30 years earlier as a front desk clerk at a small hotel in San Antonio, working his way up through every department, learning every aspect of hospitality management through direct experience rather than business school theory. Rivera was fluent in Spanish, English, and Portuguese, skills that had made him invaluable in Miami's international hospitality market. He understood that great customer service often meant going beyond job descriptions, solving problems creatively, and empowering employees to use their skills for the benefit of guests and the hotel. As Rivera scrolled through that day's security footage, he paused at a scene from the 15th floor. He watched Maria Santos approach 2 frustrated businessmen, listened to her speak perfect Spanish, observed her professional demeanor as she solved their problem quickly and efficiently. Rivera smiled. This was exactly the kind of proactive customer service that separated great hotels from merely good ones. He made a mental note to commend Maria in her next performance review and possibly consider her for promotion to guest services, where her language skills could be utilized more effectively. But then Rivera watched Derek Walsh approach Maria after the guests had left. He watched the entire conversation, saw Derek's aggressive posture, observed Maria's confused and increasingly distressed responses. Rivera's smile faded as he realized what he was witnessing. He watched Derek terminate Maria Santos for providing exactly the kind of customer service that Rivera had built his career on. He watched a dedicated employee lose her job for solving a problem that the front desk had been unable to handle. He watched 8 years of exemplary service destroyed by a manager who understood authority but not leadership. Rivera paused the footage and leaned back in his chair. In his 30 years in hospitality, he'd seen many types of managers, some who understood that employees were assets to be developed, others who saw them as problems to be controlled. Derek Walsh clearly fell into the second category. Rivera picked up his phone and dialed hotel security. "This is Rivera. I need you to pull all footage of Maria Santos from housekeeping over the past 6 months. I also need Derek Walsh's complete employment file and disciplinary records on my desk within the hour." "Yes, sir." "Is there a problem?" "There's about to be." Here's where this story takes a turn that Derek Walsh never could have anticipated. For the next 2 hours, Rivera conducted the kind of thorough investigation that separated competent CEOs from lazy ones. He reviewed Maria's employment history, 8 years of perfect attendance, glowing performance reviews, multiple commendations from guests who had specifically requested her services. He watched 6 months of security footage, showing Maria consistently going above and beyond her job requirements, helping lost guests, translating for international visitors, solving problems that other employees couldn't handle. He saw her working extra hours without complaint, training new housekeepers with patience and professionalism, and treating every guest interaction as an opportunity to represent the hotel's values. Then Rivera reviewed Derek Walsh's 3-week tenure as assistant manager. He found a pattern of aggressive disciplinary actions, arbitrary policy interpretations, and what appeared to be a systematic effort to assert authority through punishment rather than leadership. Rivera also discovered something that made his blood pressure rise. This wasn't Derek's first termination of a long-term employee. In 3 weeks, Derek had fired 2 other staff members for similar violations of policies that didn't actually exist in the employee handbook. At 11:30 p.m., Rivera made 3 phone calls. The first was to the hotel's head of human resources. "I need Derek Walsh's employment terminated immediately. Prepare his severance package for tomorrow morning." The second was to the hotel's legal counsel. "We may have some wrongful termination exposure. I need you to review 3 recent firings and advise on remediation." The third call was to Maria Santos. Maria was at her kitchen table, reviewing her daughter's college tuition bills and trying to calculate how long her savings would last, when her phone rang at 11:45 p.m. "Hello, Ms. Santos. This is Jonathan Rivera, CEO of Grand Plaza Hotel. I apologize for calling so late, but I wanted to speak with you personally about what happened today." Maria's heart stopped. "So, Mr. Rivera? Ms. Santos, I've spent the evening reviewing security footage of your interaction with our Spanish-speaking guest today. I want you to know that what you did was exactly the kind of customer service that makes our hotel successful. Derek Walsh was completely wrong to terminate your employment." Maria couldn't speak. She'd never imagined that the CEO would even know her name, let alone review footage of her work. "Ms. Santos, are you there?" "Yes, sir. I don't understand. Derek Walsh no longer works for our hotel. His decision to fire you was not only wrong, it was contrary to everything we value as a company. I'd like to offer you your job back, with a promotion to guest services supervisor and a salary increase that reflects the value you bring to our organization." Maria started crying. "Mr. Rivera, I thank you. Yes, absolutely yes. There's more, Ms. Santos. I've reviewed your employment history, and I'm frankly embarrassed that we haven't recognized your talents before now. Your language skills, your professionalism, your dedication, these are exactly the qualities we need in leadership positions." Rivera continued, "I'd also like to offer your daughter a paid internship in our corporate office this summer, if she's interested. And we'll be creating a new position, Director of International Guest Services, that I'd like you to consider once you've settled into your new role." Maria was sobbing now, overwhelmed by the sudden reversal of fortune. "Mr. Rivera, I don't know what to say. Say you'll be here Monday morning, ready to show Derek Walsh's replacement how customer service is really done." But here's where this story becomes about more than just one person's vindication. The next morning, Derek Walsh arrived at the Grand Plaza, expecting to start another day of asserting his authority through disciplinary action. Instead, he found a security escort waiting at the employee entrance, and a termination letter that cited gross misconduct, poor judgment, and actions contrary to company values. Derek's 3-week career as assistant manager was over, ended by the same swift decisiveness he'd shown in firing Maria Santos. Maria returned to work Monday morning, not as a housekeeper, but as guest services supervisor with an office, a team, and the authority to implement the kind of multilingual customer service program she'd been providing informally for 8 years. Within 6 months, Maria had transformed the hotel's approach to international guests. Customer satisfaction scores increased by 40%, complaints decreased by 60%, and the Grand Plaza became known throughout Miami as the preferred hotel for international business travelers. Rivera's investment in Maria's talents paid off in ways that no business school case study could have predicted. Maria's daughter graduated college debt-free, interned at the hotel's corporate headquarters, and eventually joined the company's management training program. 2 years later, when Rivera promoted Maria to Director of International Guest Services, she became the first former housekeeper in the company's history to reach executive level. Derek Walsh found another management position at a smaller hotel where he lasted 4 months before being terminated for similar issues with employee relations and policy interpretation. But the real transformation happened in ways that couldn't be measured in customer satisfaction scores or profit margins. The story of Maria Santos became part of the Grand Plaza's training program, used to teach new managers about the difference between authority and leadership, between following rules and serving customers, between seeing employees as problems and recognizing them as assets. Rivera instituted a policy requiring all managers to spend time working in every department before being eligible for promotion, ensuring that future Derek Walshes would understand the hotel from the ground up rather than from business theory down. Most importantly, the Grand Plaza created a formal recognition program for employees who went above and beyond their job descriptions to serve guests, turning Maria's violation into the company's new standard for excellence. Maria Santos never forgot the moment when 8 minutes of helping someone cost her everything she'd worked for, or the moment when one phone call restored not just her job, but her faith in justice. Years later, when she was featured in Hospitality Management magazine as Executive of the Year, Maria always told the same story. "I learned that doing the right thing doesn't always get rewarded immediately, but if you keep doing it, eventually the right people notice. Sometimes justice takes 8 years to build, 8 minutes to destroy, and 8 hours to restore. But when it comes with interest. If you believe that talent deserves recognition regardless of job title, that helping others should never be punished, and that good leadership means empowering employees rather than controlling them, hit that like button. Type justice in the comments if you believe that doing the right thing is always worth the risk. Subscribe to Black Story Life because every person has hidden talents waiting to be discovered, and every act of kindness deserves to be seen by someone who has the power to make a difference.